Hello, my name is Oliver Pickard and welcome back to the workshop. Now, we've been working through this 1974 Citroen Dyane over the past few weeks, and we've been working from back to front, and this week we've finally got to the front. So we're going to be taking the whole front of the car off, the whole front clip, and repairing the louvers under the chassis that have been pushed flat, probably by an off-road excursion, kind of driving over grass and stuff like that, and it's just pressed those louvers flat. So we're going to be doing that, as well as checking out everything that's going on in the front of this chassis, because we've never had the front of this car. And there is a previous kind of repair panel that has been put into the front of this car. The front footwell is on two CVs and Dyane's, is one of the most common rot spots, and this car has had a new front footwell, and I don't think it's been done very well. So we're going to be tidying up that. It's been put in and it's in and it's fine, but it's not been finished properly, we don't think. So we're going to be having a look at that, having a look at how well that's been done, as well as just checking out the general condition of things, and of course painting it over that lovely colour of pale grey. Like I say, it's as much a voyage of discovery this week as it is a plan. Everything can change as soon as we get the front of this car off, because like I say, up until this point we've never had the front of the car off completely. Obviously we've had the bonnet up and we have had the front bumper off and the front valance off, but we've never had the wings off. So that will really, once we've got the whole front off, that'll really tell us what we're in for. And this car has been full of surprises so far, to say the least. So let's get stuck in, shall we? And there we go. 602cc and 35 horsepower of Fury. Well, 32 horsepower when it was 35 horsepower when it was new. And a lot of dynamite. If you don't know what this stuff is, it's called dynamite, and it's one of the best modifications I think you can make to a classic car, if I'm honest with you. Now, my car has it in as well, not as much as this car, but I did a video where I took my car for a drive in the morning, recorded the sound so you can hear what the car sounds like, then I stripped all of the interior out of my car in a day and dynamited the interior, and then put all the interior back in again and took it for a drive. So you can hear the difference before and after. There'll be a link to that video up in the corner of the screen. It basically stops it being vibraty and stops your car being boomy inside, which, you know, vans, old Land Rovers, 2CVs, they have these very large panels, and all the very large panels, such as the door skins and all that, all vibrate, and it's very fatiguing on a long drive. So much so, some 2CV owners and Dyane owners on long drives wear earplugs. There's no need to in this. If you've seen the review video, or even the video where I drove with the shock absorber, with the new shock absorbers, it's super quiet, super lovely. You're not shouting at each other. You can just, you know, talk normally, and it's very, very calming and nice to drive with this stuff. It's well worth it. It's expensive, but it is well worth it. Right, let's whip this front end off, shall we? Obviously not pushing the limits of performance in any way, but this is the way that you actually drive this Dyane. I find that Dyanes have a luxury to them, which my 2CV being a 425 doesn't. This has torque. And it's funny to say that a 602cc car has like stump pulling torque, but in comparison to my car, which has, you know, the pulling power of a small dog rather than a horse, this thing you can just waft along. It's a little bit more tricky doing this job on a Dyane than it is doing it on a 2CV. If I was doing it on a 2CV, I'd already have the front end off. It's only 4 bolt. Oh. I can't actually see what I'm doing because the sun's in my eyes. Although, having to work with sunglasses on in your garage is actually quite a nice problem to have. I'll take this over being cold any day. Right, I'm free. So I need to get to these screws here, and I'm sure I could kind of wiggle the door, but I'm not going to do. I'm going to take the door off completely. And all you have to do is take the strap off. For some reason, this has an extra long strap on it. I do think that's standard. And then you close the door some, like that. This is the way you usually do it. Like that. And pop it off. This little wasp's nest here, every single year we take wasp nests out of this car. I don't know why, they just love it. See that? And you can see now just how cluttered a Dyane engine bay is. 2CV6s and Dyanes are so much more complex than my little 425. There's a lot more going on. It's a lot more complicated looking than my little 425 engine because you've got an alternator up here, you've got a screen wash bottle, you've got the heaters on top of the engine rather than actually around the engine. And you've even got things like tiny things like wiring for front indicators, which I just don't have on my car, and it definitely fills up the engine bay, and that's all going to get in the way of us trying to straighten out these louvers here at the back. Put this one a bit more. I think it needs tapping down anyway from the inside out, yeah? Yep. If you're watching this and you're wondering what I'm doing, I'm hugging the chassis, holding a camera, and holding a piece of the wood to the back as well. Once we get the louvers in, we can go around and tidy them all up, can't we? Yep, I'll tap them all. Yeah. Nice and straight. It's easier to do once they're not pinging in and out. Yep. Hang on, I'm chasing down. There you go. Okay. Next one. Middle. Is probably easiest to get in first. There we go. So yeah, straightening louvers on the underside of the chassis. I wonder how many 2CVs out there have flattened chassis louvers and they don't even know it well. 2CVs, Amis, Dyanes, all that kind of thing. And as you can see, we've been cleaning off the chassis, and it's amazing how much surface rust there is under the paint. It's not bad rust, it's not rusty in holes, only around these rubber bump stop things, which is to be expected really, because being rubber they'll trap water and not let it evaporate. But it's pretty good nick, to be honest. There's not much bodging, there's not much bad news at all. Just a lot of surface rust and a lot of oil, and there is a leak here, but we still don't know whether it's the gasket here or the push rods. The push rods are under. Hang on, move you a second. Yeah. Right. The push rods are. There's two tubes. One is there, and one is there. And each one of those tubes has an oil seal at one end and an oil seal at this end. But like I said, this gasket goes as well, so we don't know which one it is. So we're very tempted to replace both. But that's a lot of faffing that we didn't plan on doing. So it just goes to show, until you get into it, until you start cleaning it all off and sorting it all out, you don't know what's in there. But on the whole, I'm actually rather happy with it. We can start cleaning and rust treating and stuff, and then start painting it up and making it look pretty. And hopefully, it'll soon look as good as my engine. If you've never seen a 2CV6 engine, this is a 2CV6 engine. Well, this is the engine, that's the gearbox. People don't often realise that the engine and gearbox are in one area, and that's the gear stick. We haven't taken the bonnet off because we can't be bothered. The best way to bend a bonnet is to remove it. So we're keeping it on as much as we can, because it tends to be that when you take bonnets off, they get jumped on by a cat, as happened with my bonnet, and then you get a dint around there. But I have a dint in my bonnet which I'm going to be removing soon, hopefully, because after this car gets some attention, Pandora needs a bit of attention, and so does my daily driver, Jolene. Pandora needs a lot of attention. Pandora needs turning into a rolling chassis already. But my daily Jolene needs some window catches and stuff like that, and a good service. So you've got that to look forward to if you're a fan of Pandora and Jolene content. Actually, I was thinking that we'd be done by this already. Done by this? I'm tired. I was thinking that we'd be already finished with this car, but I didn't expect to find the rust in the rear boxes and stuff like that, and so that set us back a couple of days. So we're about a week behind on what we hoped we'd on the schedule we hoped we'd have for this car, and that makes me, behind on videos and all that kind of thing. So I was actually hoping to have this finished, Pandora, Jolene sorted and serviced, and be working on Pandora now. But that's the reality of it. It's not a TV show, and it's when the camera turns off, there isn't an army of people that descend. I wish we had a mechanical gnome that worked on the car overnight. I wish there was a finished Dyane behind that wall. And then we could wheel it out. That'd be nice, wouldn't it?
What, Gas Monkey style?
Yeah. If you don't know that, that's how Gas Monkey Garage used to do it. That's how that TV show worked. It wasn't actually a garage, it was a production company. Yeah, we've only got a week to build this car! Yeah, alright. Hang on a minute, how long does it take to paint a car? If you... Ooh, ow, bang me over. If you're wondering what this very pretty little adjuster is there, that's one of the handbrake adjusters. There's one on each side. And that's how you adjust the handbrake cable. They have 2CVs tend to have a bit of wander in the handbrake because the brakes are inboard like a Formula 1 car or a Jaguar. There tends to be a little bit of wander between the brake and the actual hub itself. There's a little bit of play. And what can happen is the handbrake wears when you get out of the car moves like this. Like it's a torque converter automatic and you just put it in park and not put the handbrake on. And and it looks very odd, and people stare at you when you get out of the car in a car park, because you get out of the car and the car does this. Like it's going to roll back. And it's not, there's just a bit of play in the handbrake, and the handbrake needs adjusting. We see it a lot. And I'm quite obsessive about keeping my handbrake adjusted. Here you see these basic primates recorded on camera for the first time in their natural habitat, the garage, using simple tools. This has never before seen. Usually, one hangs around in the background with a cup of tea, telling the other one what to do in a disdainful manner. understand little about the relationships between these primates. However, it appears that hierarchy and dominance is asserted by belching and farting. And occasionally throwing tools from one side of the workshop to the other.
How dare you, madam?
Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. If you're on any sort of deadline of any sort, it's things like rust proofing the chassis and well, painting rust preventive and stuff that actually take up all your time, because once you've painted it, you can't do anything for 24 hours. And so really the rust proofing takes a day, just because unless you've got something else to be getting on with while this is going off, you're kind of stuck not doing anything, which is a pain. So you'll notice what my dad's done here, where this hole was damaged. All that fits in here is like a rubber bung that holds the inside of the wing, but there wasn't enough metal to actually repair. So what he's done, or even weld to, so what he's done is made a bottom and a top, and then sandwiched it, plug welded it through. But instead of just plug welding it to this, he's actually plug welded it through to the bottom piece of metal, because that's the most substantial thing there is. And it's a nice little repair. It's the best thing that you can do without replacing this piece of the chassis, because it is a piece of the chassis. It's not easily replaced and not worth replacing just for a teeny tiny little corner. So we've been having a chat and we've done such a good job on the chassis. We've rebuilt the suspension, we've replaced all the boot, and we've come this far. And it's not really right if we rush it now just to get it over with. So we've decided that even though this video series and even though this project is taking longer than we wanted it to, we've decided that to kind of cut it short now, just because we want to do other stuff, would be the wrong thing to do. The right thing to do is to finish this car properly, and that is what this channel is all about, of course. You know, we have always done the extra step. We have always gone the extra mile to make sure that the stuff that we do in this garage is as good as we can do it with the tools that we have on hand. And this is no exception. So, for example, we've been looking at this engine mount here. Is very dry rotted and it needs replacing. But if we're going to replace one engine mount, we might as well replace all three. Because wouldn't it be stupid if we replaced one engine mount, or just the front ones, and then the week after, the back engine mount goes. And the drive shaft gaiters need replacing really, because they're the originals from 1974. And there's a bunch of tiny little things, including painting under the engine, painting all the belly pan underneath the engine, and the back of the chassis where the louvers are, which you can't really do properly with the engine in place. So we are going to pull the engine, and it's not something we wanted to do, but it's something that we need to do. And to be lazy and just cut it short and be like, well, you know, it's good enough. That's not us, is it? That's not what we do here. So we're going to pull the engine out, and then we can fully repaint the engine bay and the chassis and get it all mint. Because, like I say, we've come this far, we might as well. It's only, you know, it's going to add another couple of videos onto this series, but c'est la vie. So, let's pull an engine out, shall we? Luckily, it's only 4 bolts to do. We've got a bolt under here, a bolt under here, and 2 bolts at the back. However, we've also got brake lines and a bunch of electrical stuff. Now, if this was my car, all of the engine harness just unplugs, and then you undo your 4 bolts, and your exhaust is attached to your gearbox, and you just go boop. But it's a little bit more complicated than that, because this wiring harness has been extended and modified and stuff, and it doesn't have a quick disconnect. So this is going to be fun. So first off, the heater cable, which is 6mm. One of the things I love about Citroens is you get to use all the spanners in your toolbox that you've never used before. So Dad's attacking the nuts on the shafts. There we go. Heater cable off. Figure out the way. We're going to be replacing these exhaust clamps. We ordered all new ones because these are the cheap and nasty sort. And there are two main sorts, like qualities of exhaust clamp, and these are the cheap ones, and they're absolutely rubbish. You're right.
We get Russia's nuts off.
Fun.
So normally we don't need to take this nut off, but we need to replace this gator. So we've got to take the CV joint apart. Normally when you just take the engine out, you can drop the shaft away and lift the engine out.
Hang on a minute. Dad just did a bit to camera.
Steady on.
First time ever. I'm in shock.
No, you're in the middle.
Ha. Is it just going to be a never-ending stream of dad jokes now?
Yeah.
Damn it.
In fact, you're in Nouvelle Aquitaine.
No, I'm not. Around here, every time someone says Nouvelle Aquitaine, someone else goes, PAH! Nouvelle Aquitaine is the new name for most of France, apparently.
Only the good bits.
Yeah. The French government has tried. The French government has tried to reclassify all of the umpteen million different counties, as it were, into kind of three, and the French are not having it. There we go. Exhaust pipe off. Put the clamp safe. If you're wondering what the difference between working on my car is to the difference in working on the Dyane, on the Dyane there's a lot of 11mm bolts, so a lot of 11mm spanners, and there is just added steps to everything. So that, like, the full length exhaust just adds steps all the time. Should we take the bonnet off? So, case in point about added steps, on a 2CV, you lift the bonnet and then just slide it to the side. It's still a two-person job, really.
Drop it down.
Because the bonnet's all floppy. Whereas on a Dyane, there are two split pins. Somewhere. On the outside. The boot split pins go inwards, and the bonnet split pins go outwards. In a way, it's a bit better of a hinge than a. Don't just go all the way up like that, and then you can pull it out. Yes. In a way, it's a bit better than a 2CV hinge because it doesn't fill up with rubbish like dust and stuff, and it doesn't trap water. But here we go. There we go. That's what holds a Dyane bonnet on. Really long split pins.
The problem with it is as you pull them out, it takes all the paint off.
Mm-hmm. It does that on a 2CV as well, so. Ready? 1, 2, 3, up we go.
Stick it inside.
One of the biggest problems with working on this Dyane is that Dyane parts are only just becoming more available now. For example, this rubber seal here just isn't reproduced. So as you can see, it's torn in places. And we're just going to have to repair it and kind of glue it back the best we can with like tyre repair glue, like contact adhesive. And you've just got to do the best you can, because some stuff's available and other stuff just isn't. But as Dyanes are becoming more valuable, they are becoming worth repairing and worth making parts for. and that's been the whole problem with Dyanes, because they were worth less money than a 2CV, even though they're the fancier car. They have more pieces because they're the fancier car, and nobody made stuff for them. So it just became very difficult to sort them out. One of the reasons we haven't done the suspension heights and stuff like that is because there's no fuel tank in it, there's no rear wings on it, and there's no hatchback on it at the minute. So you can't get your suspension right, your suspension heights right, when half the car's missing. So the front's really low and the back's really high. So what we'll have to do, we'll have to wait until the car's fully assembled, and then we'll set the suspension height. Be the last thing we do. When the car is all complete and together. A lady stag beetle. How big she is. Right, come on you. Let's go get you on a tree.
Yeah.
Very scared little stag beetle. Go on. Go on. Be free. Look. Oh, you rubbish. Come on. Hang on. There we go. There you go. You're okay. Don't fall off. Right. Okay. Bye-bye. This time of year you've got to watch where you walk, because we get stag beetles everywhere. They're not very good at flying for such a wonderful creature. This car really, at some point in the future, needs rewiring. But not today. Everything works fine. It's just that over the decades, cars pick up. And I just dropped it. Over the decades, people pick up numerous different kind of repairs and bodges, and all your wires end up the same colour. My first boat that I ever bought, every single wire in the entire boat was black. Every single one. And it had all been rewired, but it was all rewired with one colour of wire. And that was fun. Right, so this is the linkage of a 2CV, the gear linkage, and people get incredibly worried and confused about 2CV gear linkages. And one of the most common questions I get asked as a 2CV owner is, are they hard to drive? Like, how long does it take me to get used to them? And if you've ever driven an air-cooled 911 or anything like that, it's really, really simple, because it's just a dogleg gearbox. This gear stick is a gear stick like any other. Like what normally comes through your transmission tunnel of your car. So you've got first, reverse, neutral, second, third, and then this is the slightly odd one, but while you're in third you come to the side and then you go forward to fourth. That's only on earlier cars, but this being an early 70s car, it has that pattern. You can also just go to the side and into fourth. There's two ways of doing it, but it's basically just your normal dogleg gearbox. The most difficult thing to remember is that when you're in first, not to go straight forward to second, because that's reverse. And a lot of people get in the car, and what they do is, when they're at a stop, they put the car in reverse, and then they reverse into the car behind them at the traffic lights. But other than that, it's completely natural and normal. But there's loads of cars with dogleg gearboxes. Mercedes 190e Cosworth, like I say, old 911s. There's loads of stuff, loads of our Lotuses. Like, dogleg gearboxes were really, really common, and I actually really like a dogleg gearbox for tight, twisty roads. If you spend a lot of time in traffic, it's a bit of a pain, because you spend a lot of time going from first to second, and that's quite a long shift. You're not just going like this. But on the other hand, your synchro between second and third tends not to wear out the same. So it's because you're not going like that all the time. But I like them a lot. Some people don't get on with them. But as long as you remember that, the actual umbrella gear shift is not unnatural at all. As long as you're not looking at it when you change gear, it's completely fine. It's the exact same as the gear stick coming up through the transmission tunnel of your car. Right. So Dad's using a piece of Perrier
Plastic.
Perrier label plastic so that it doesn't let air into the master cylinder when he disconnects the pipe. This will prevent the car from losing all the brake fluid the second that you disconnect the brake line. In theory.
Oh, it does, it works.
In theory. It works 99% of the time, it works all of the time. That's the clutch cable. Now the clutch cable's a bit weird on this. Weird for me anyway. It attaches to the firewall somewhere around here. And you just unhook it, you de-adjust it, you lengthen the cable length, and then you unhook it from the back of the pedal. Unlike my car, which has the top pin, which has the 4-hinge pedals, and that it has an arm that attaches to the back of the gearbox, and you just undo a nut and just go bink. So it's the same but backwards. So you get a slight drip, but because it's held under vacuum by the piece of Perrier label, it's not the most professional way of doing it, but it works. It doesn't leak everywhere. You do lose a little bit though, so we'll need to bleed the brakes afterwards still. Right. What else?
Engine mounts next.
Engine mounts. So we've got 2 bolts at the back, one there and one there, and they're just on a yoke, so you don't need to take them off completely. And we've got 2 bolts under the front. That was tight. There's always something. So those fancy looking brass adjusters for the handbrake.
That's only on one side.
Is it only on one side on yours?
Yeah. No, there's a nut on this side.
Alright.
Soldering nut.
This brass adjuster here is it goes over the exhaust on this car. So we'll have to take that off before I take the engine out. I can't do it because the camera's in the way. I love the tool-free nature of a lot of things on 2CVs. How you can just adjust your handbrake with a cute little brass thing. You can just be like, oh, I'm in a car park and I've got a 10-minute wait. I know what I'll do. I'll adjust my handbrake.
This one.
There's always one. This bit okay to use these bolts?
It's just there's a bolt holder. Oh.
Like a bobbin on the end of it. Like a steering collar. Yeah? Yeah. Oh, that's different to mine. Mine's just a square peg. One of the reasons I did the 2CV versus the Dyane videos and the 2CV6 versus 64 videos is because people say, oh, these cars didn't change much for 40 years, and it's not true. There we go. 2 men, some basic hand tools, and about 45 minutes to an hour to take this out. What this means now is we can get all of this cleaned up properly, we can rust treat it all, get all this done, we can degrease it all, and we can get it painted. I'm going to do that between episodes because I think you've seen enough painting montages of this car for now. And then next week we can put the engine back in with new drive shaft gaiters, new rocker cover seals, and a host of other bits. We've ordered a bunch more stuff because, like I say, new engine mounts and all of that. Because, like I say, we've come this far, we might as well finish it properly. There's no point skipping ahead now. So, you've got all that to look forward to next week. Now, quick YouTube thing. If you enjoy these videos and you have watched many of these videos and you're not subscribed, you need to click subscribe because it is the best way you can support me making these videos. And make sure you check through your subscriptions feed on YouTube and check that YouTube hasn't unsubscribed you from any channels. There has been a problem lately with YouTube unsubscribing people from channels. I've had numerous reports of it, and I know a bunch of other creators have. So the best way you can support the people who work for very little to make free TV for you is, of course, by subscribing and clicking the bell icon as well, and that should give you a notification every time a video goes up, and that helps us massively, helps the visibility of YouTube channels tremendously. So make sure you do all that. And of course, if you've got any comments or questions, please leave them down in the comment section below. I always read every single one of them. Thank you all for watching. Please be awesome to each other, and I'll see you all in the next video. Bye bye.